Economic Development Committee, February 25, 2021.
At 5:56. 27 seconds.
That's right. And my 43rd wedding anniversary.
Wow, look at you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The blizzard of 78.
Holy smokes. Good for you.
Thanks.
That is crazy. The blizzard of 78. That's
Yep.
awesome.
That was a
Yep.
blizzard.
So I got to ask, was the wedding planned or did it happen because of the blizzard?
It was planned. It was actually, it was supposed to be in April. And then my father was a welder and he got transferred to South Africa. And so he had to leave early and my mother wanted to get moving and get over there. So she asked if we could move it up. So we moved it up to February 25th. Little did we know it would snow for the week and a half prior.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yep.
We have John Clanchester and Bob Raymond have joined us. Howdy.
Hello, everybody.
Here's Mike Donahue coming in. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
I'm great.
I like your, hey.
Hi, Bob.
Hello there, how you doing?
Good.
I need a haircut. It won't be long. Another month, I'm gonna get a cut.
Yeah.
That's where I get my shot.
You could just braid it.
I could.
Oh,
I got a screen I'm trying to get rid of, and I can't get rid of it here. I don't want to disconnect. That'll not work. I gotta get my consultant. And got a little box in the corner I want to get rid of. I don't know how to
hey, Jill.
Here. How'd you do that? Yeah, yeah. I read something today. If you stand up, you won't get tired of looking at my face, but you can't see my face at all now.
Right.
It's pretty good. I have no head anyway, so I got no mind. Perfect. Go back this way. Oh, there it is.
There you go.
Tips on how to make it work better for you. They recommend that you don't do this all day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have daughters who do it all day. They're working remotely for Harvard and another place in Boston. And we try to get them to have a Zoom call with us. They won't. They're sick of it. We're not working anymore. That's what they said. We'll call you on the phone.
I guess it's pretty stressful after you do it for 8 hours a day. It kind of gets to you. I got a friend that works for an insurance company, and they're all going to stay at home completely and sell their building. I guess there's a lot of that going to go on. They're closing their building down.
Which building?
I can't tell you. I'm not supposed to tell anybody.
Okay.
It's not official yet, but it's in the Manchester area.
Okay.
Hang on a minute. I'll be right back.
She got a hall pass?
She has permission.
Yeah, we'll permit her to go.
All right.
Mike, do we have to have a certain number of people for this to start, or can we just go?
You need a quorum, so.
We're one short of a quorum. I've texted Ted and asked him to please log in.
Oh, and here's Ken Latchford.
Does he count for our quorum?
Yeah.
Yep. Cool.
Do we count
Again.
someone's dog?
So Jill is logged in. Does she count as part of our quorum, or there she
She's
is?
coming back in.
There she is. Great.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, Ken. How are you?
I'm great. Another great day out there.
It was,
You didn't go walking into the wind.
yeah. It was really coming across the bay. Wow. It was like, you must have been really could hear it at your house, Jeff. You're probably at work maybe, but it was really coming across the bay.
I could hear it. I'm in Hampton Falls right now just because I wanted to be able to have all the technology. But yeah, it was blowing down here quite a bit too. So it looks like we're good to go for the quorum, I guess, right?
But yeah, you're gonna have to, say the whole speech, get going, and
Oh yeah, I know.
take
So,
attendance
I'll get
and all
that.
that.
So I'll go ahead and read that little snippet here. So this is regarding the Right to Know Law meeting checklist. So as chair of the Newington Economic Development Committee, due to the COVID-19 coronavirus crisis and in accordance with Governor Sununu's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-404, this committee is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to the meeting, which is authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. I think all town meetings are supposed to be this way now, I think. But however, in accordance with the emergency order, this is to confirm that we are providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access by Zoom. We are utilizing the Zoom platform for this meeting. All members of the committee have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during the meeting with the Zoom platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in the meeting through dialing in the telephone numbers provided or by inserting the website address on the agenda. Providing public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting, we previously gave notice to public on how to access the meeting using Zoom, and instructions are provided on the Town of Newington's website at newington.nh.us, providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anybody has a problem, please call Town Hall, 603-436-7640, Town Hall. Adjourning the meeting if the public is unable to access the meeting. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting, we will adjourn the meeting and have it rescheduled at a future date. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call. The meeting will be started by taking a roll call attendance when each member states their presence. Also, please state whether there is anyone in the room with you during the meeting, which is required under the Right to Know laws. Martha S. Roy has provided that to us very nicely. Thank you, Martha. So it is now 6:05. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Are we going to do this roll call thing, Martha?
Yes, sir. Here we go. Jeff Hyatt,
Here.
Jill Boynton.
Here.
I don't believe John Lamson or Brandon Arsenal are on the call at this time. Michael Donahue. I know he's here.
Yeah, he's here. Mike, you're on mute.
Present, and I'm alone. There's nobody in the room.
Okay, Alicia Bisconi, I believe, is not going to attend, or Jim Tietzel. And that brings us to Bob Raymond
Here.
and Ted Connors.
Here.
Thank you.
But Jill,
Didn't I say Jill?
Yeah,
Wow.
you
Okay,
got me.
great.
Okay, so we'll go to the agenda. Here it is. Okay. So call to order. Minutes approval. Oh, we're going to approve the minutes. Everybody has had those circulated by Martha. Is this a vote thing where we're going to need to do another roll call, or can we just nod or give the thumbs up? Martha, what do you say?
Sorry, we've got to do a roll call.
Okay, so I don't think I can ask, I mean, I guess, what do I ask for a motion to?
Right.
So moved. So moved.
And
Second,
there we go. Fire at will for the voting.
Okay. Jill Boynton,
Accepted.
Michael Donahue,
yes.
Bob Raymond,
Yes,
Ted Connors,
Yes.
Jeff Hyatt.
Yes.
It is a vote.
Okay, so we did that. Now we're going to go to old business. Business appreciation update from Karen Anderson, if you will.
Sure. The February newsletter went out, and I did receive one email from, where was it? From Foot Locker, asking if we could send an additional copy to another email address, which I thought was a very big positive, that it was at least being read and they felt it was valuable enough that they wanted to pass it on to their upper office. So that was good. Working on the next issue now, and I've just finished the article for Custom Pools, recognizing their 50 years in Newington. That Martha has that for the town newsletter that will be going out, and then the Board of Selectmen will get a proclamation to sign along with Jeff for the Economic Development Committee. That will be done within the next week.
Good deal. Okay, thank you. So retail sector update by Alicia Bisconi, but she has mentioned to me and probably a few other of you that she's got some meeting right now, like a business meeting that is running late, and she will not be able to attend. So we will defer that until future notice. If she comes in late, I suppose we can circle back to this. So we're going to have an open discussion right now regarding the informational presentations from both Christian Stallkamp of the Boulis Company and Greg Nicolaides, who is with August Consulting. We had set up these informational meetings, and I guess where this is open, do you want me to give a little overview of it, or shall we just see if anybody here, because I see some of the folks were on the meetings. What did you folks think of those informational sessions? I know Bob was on there. So let's open to the floor. Bueller. Does anybody want to comment, or we're not going to comment?
no, I mean, it was useful. I mean, they really, neither one of them really said a lot, but they did make it clear what the situation is right now in terms of who's looking for property and et cetera. So that was helpful.
Yeah, what I got out of it was that industrial use is probably in most demand at the moment. There's most demand from industrial tenants, I guess I'll say. That sounds right. Jeff, is that what you heard?
Industrial is a hot commodity as far as it goes. I mean, and we have a nice section of potential industrial space that could be used, you know, that's currently undeveloped, but it is all, I believe it's all owned. One of the things they did point out was that with the high price of Seacoast property, no matter what kind of property it is, it starts out a lot more expensive than you would be if you were 10 or 20 miles inland. So that becomes a problem that, yes, we've got the industrial zoned property. The challenge is it makes it artificially high. Whereas if you were, again, 10, 20 miles in, it would be a much lower price point. But with the land costs being so high on the seacoast, you just got to deal with it. So the trade-off is, you know, you're close to 95 and 16 and Maine and New Hampshire and all that, all the good stuff. The problem is you pay for that. But that is if somebody was to build a 35-foot clear height warehouse space, that's rocking and rolling. I mean, they can get that rented. The challenge is making it a viable price point.
Well, they also reiterated, you know, what, we're in a fairly good position where we are. I mean, geography is fine. Once we get over this, whatever it's called now, we might be in pretty good shape, just getting over the hump. It was encouraging to hear how, you know, how they characterize, you know, our properties.
Okay.
And it was interesting that Christian brought out, Sandy repeated it several times, that the zoning that doesn't allow the mixed-use residential near the mall is a drawback, that they have people that would be interested in that and the adjacent property, but the zoning is the holdup.
That can be a problem. Yep. Any other comments? Hearing none. We had the same pretty much informational session from Greg Michaelides. He had mentioned, interestingly enough, that he has done a lot of original permitting for buildings that are now like 3 or 4 iterations later, and he's doing renovations and permitting for different uses than they originally started out as. He's mentioned that he was doing some reuse permitting, in other words, changing the use altogether of former what was retail, and now it's going to become something different. So he was mentioning that as well. Okay. Anything else to chat about there? Okay, we'll move on then.
I just say you've got one more on the agenda now for coming up in March.
Correct. I believe it's next Wednesday. I think it's going to be the 3rd as it sits right now. I have not gotten confirmation back from Waterstone Group. It may be that we have Josh Levy from Waterstone. It could be one of their new persons whom they've just announced that Karen Pollard is now one of their key players at Waterstone. So she presented to us as an economic development person from her days back in Rochester, and now she's working for Waterstone. So
she presented at one of our first meetings to us.
Yep. And
very helpful.
Yes.
She was like a midwife. Getting us going.
Jeff, I do have a question. Would that be during the day or evening?
It would be during the day, and it will be recorded.
10
So
a.m.
Good.
Yeah, I believe it is 10 a.m. Bob just said that, I think.
Yeah, it's down at the bottom of the agenda under next
Oh,
meeting.
thank you. Oh, look at you.
Here we
I hadn't gotten there yet.
We'll get there.
Yeah. Okay.
So Waterstone, just as a preview, what they are going to be able to speak specifically to this market. They are the ones that are responsible for the remake of Southgate Plaza in Portsmouth, as well as they've got West End Yards underway, which is where the Frank Jones Center was, right off Lafayette Road, just south of the traffic circle. So I think, I remember, Ken, you had questions about school, and I think if you'll be able to pose those and get answers, because they actually have the school numbers from the building that they built at Southgate Plaza. So it'll be I think it'll be a little, it has the potential to be a little more focused than the last two, but we'll see.
That would be very helpful, Mike, because that usually, as you know, that's one of the first questions asked. Well, gee, if we do this multi-use, our schools are going to be flooded, when in fact, they're not.
Well,
That's true.
we'll ask them, and hopefully he'll have the same numbers that Mark Fugia presented at the joint meeting, because he was checking on that project with the Portsmouth School Department. So we'll see if the numbers are the same. Hopefully they will be. That always helps.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Shall I move ahead? Any other comments? Hearing none. What Mike thought might make some sense is at least for me to do a little conversation and presentation that I did for the, as Jeff the citizen, not Jeff the Economic Development Committee guy. So I put together a little PowerPoint as Jeff the citizen, and that's what I'm going to do here tonight for you folks, is just kind of walk you through what I presented to the planning board, just because in my opinion, and this is the space that I live in and day out, and I'm on Zoom doing the conversations about commercial real estate 10 to 12 hours a day, every day, all the time. So I'm kind of in this space all the time. And so with that, I feel like there's some information that would make sense for Newington to at least be exposed to. And this is my opinion, of course. You can disagree with it or agree with it. It is what it is. It's my opinion. But I'm going to go ahead and share screen now and bring up the PowerPoint I did for the planning board a few weeks ago, and hopefully this is going to show through correctly. I think it will, hoping it will. Let's see, so are you guys seeing just a big screen with a telephone and a old?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's working. How about that? It's a good day for Jeff.
Another innovation.
There we go. So basically, this slide just is saying that there's been a lot of stuff that's changed since the 1990s, and things that used to be the way it was are not that way anymore. So these are a few of the things that are out there that have changed. We're hopefully going to go to the next slide, I think. Come on, buddy, let's go. There we go. That didn't change on this thing. Are you guys, what are you seeing right now?
Same thing.
We're stuck in the 90s.
Let's see.
We were more active, Mike.
Yeah.
Mike, you spoke too soon on me there, bud. Let me see if I can do this. I was very happy there for a moment, and not so much anymore. Let me see here. We will get this going. Okay. Well, I may just, okay, let me try that. What are you seeing now? Same thing?
Yeah.
First page, yeah.
Okay. Well, okay.
Maybe if you did do the slides down the side, Jeff, it would.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to have to do, I think. So I just got to figure out how to, okay, I'm going to stop share again. And, okay. So I'm going to go share screen. And let's see how that goes. Okay, can you see the UPS trucks?
Yes.
Okay, well, we're going to go with this, and it's not exactly the way I wanted it to go, but it's better than a sharp stick in the eye. So retail shopping has changed as well. And where this is actually our mall, of course. And, you know, there's a lot of vacancy now that in the 90s wasn't even possibly ever considered and couldn't have been imagined. But then nobody imagined a fleet of little blue trucks driving around Newington and everywhere else in the country, or these big brown trucks that have taken over retail. So nobody expected that, but that's where we are now. So Things that have also not changed are our planning regulations. So we need to consider that with the changes of everything that's going on, meaning not only have we got problems with our power plant properties, but with retail properties. And anytime that a community puts barriers or road bumps or speed bumps in front of development, that creates a red flag that the developers then go, well, as Christian Stallkamp said, this is not as friendly a place as we want to be involved with, because we don't want to get tied up in some debacle of trying to get zoning redone for years and years. We have expanded overlay residential districts in areas and zones that currently exclude them. Well, that is interesting because we're told that we can't change things, but they've added overlay districts in areas that would have otherwise excluded them. We should add language that does not indicate the town administration is anti-development, with reiterations of intent from 1985. And that's my biggest concern, is that what's ending up happening with some of the stuff that's going on related to the changes proposed to the zoning regulations, it doesn't change much other than just to reiterate that things seem to be unfriendly. And my concern is, without the adjustments, we're going to be facing even larger tax deficiencies. And I'll get into that here in a second. And so I use an analogy here. So for any history buffs out there, France in World War II, after World War I, but before World War II, put up a thing called the Maginot Line. And they built this red, what's reflected here is a red wall, effectively, with some very great defenses that would prevent Germany from ever rising up again and strolling into France. So they built this impenetrable line of defense, and it worked very well for a while. Newington has its own Maginot Line, which is basically the Spalding Turnpike. And we've been, back in the day, things were great because everything could be put in its place and kept in its place, and everything worked nicely. You had industrial, you had the retail space, you had, I believe this is the office space here. So everything could work very nicely and keep things in place and allow the residential space to be its own. And that's what we've got now, is this great little rural community that's practically out of the 1950s. It's amazing. Most everybody in town really appreciates that, and they want that to continue. Here's the problem. Just like France found out, things changed. And instead of Germany coming over where they had that wall, the Maginot Line, which is what France was originally concerned about, was Germany just coming over from their adjacent border, Germany went around it. That's what ended up happening. And unfortunately, that's what Newington's looking at now, in my opinion. We've got changes in environmental standards. If you look up here, those changes in environmental standards are changing the way energy is produced. We've got this big potential wind property going on, project out in the ocean. We've got solar coming up strong, and tax incentives for putting in renewable energy. Well, that's creating lower values for our properties, the energy properties in town. That hurts us because a good chunk, maybe 50% of our tax income is coming from those properties. We've got changes in energy production and delivery. So again, it can be now in people's backyards, and they don't need all those wires. Again, lower values to energy. We've got changes in retail sales. Another good chunk of our property tax in town comes from the retail sector over there. And as retail changes, as I mentioned earlier, as it changes, property values go down because rents go down, vacancies are up, and the problem is the retail sector is across the nation down. Our mall is particularly hard hit here, which creates, again, lower values. Changes in technology. The changes in technology allow people to do all of that retail shopping online and the way that things are delivered, and changes in lifestyle, meaning people don't necessarily want to live way away in bedroom communities. They now are looking at wanting to live. There is a big demand for living closer to where they can shop and have social activities when COVID is over. There's a lot of demand in very highly coveted spots to live in areas where they can live, work, and play in the same without having to drive. All of these red arrows coming through here are the assault on the Newington's advantages. The Newington advantage that everyone recognizes, and I'll get into why I say everyone recognizes, is that we've got low taxes. We've got a great residential area. We've got rural farm community feeling, and we've got a great lifestyle community, and we do. The problem is with all of the other sectors, back to our Maginot Line, if property values are dropping here, and that's, call it 40 to 60% of our tax base. If the property values are dropping here, they're going to have to go up someplace else. And that's the problem. So the tax rates are going to be going up. We're already seeing that. So my concern is that we don't want to be putting up signs that say to developers, we're going to be hard to work with. If you look at this slide here, what we're talking about is the change. All of the red is the change the planning board wants to put into the zoning. What it's changing, it doesn't ultimately change much other than say, and give the developer the understanding that we're adding more backup to fight them later on when they try to do development here in town. And my point in this is that that is bad because developers will walk away, as we heard from our presentations. They don't want to get into a multi-year, 3 or 4 or 5 year battle. Life is too short for that. And so bottom line is, anytime we're adding language that makes it more restrictive or makes it seem more difficult to work with, I think that's a problem. And if I would say the vote should go not to add this language. That's the reason I put this together. Here's a little tax rate background. So you can see what I'm talking about is not the sky is falling. It is based in reality. So for 2020, for tax year 2020, the town's assessed value dropped over $37 million, which creates a 37-cent per thousand increase. As a result, we're going to have to make that up, and our tax rate's going to go up, call it 37 cents. Okay? Here's where we were in 19. Here's where we are in 20. The variance is here, 37 mil. We need to make that up. Well, here was the update that we just were talking about. The problem is the Newington power plants are going to drop potentially 173 million. And that, excuse me, that means the valuation drop is 117 million. And that's going to add even more burden onto us. So let's look at that. Here's the tax rate. And with just that 37 million, it means our tax rate was gonna, here's what it was in 19, here it is in 20, the variance adding 37 cents. Plus the other cost, it makes our tax rate end up going up 55 cents. I've gotten these all from the various town resource pieces. So that's the 2020. But here's the tax year 21 settlement with the power suppliers. Here's what's going to happen there. Now, it's not just that 36 cents or the 55. You've got to add on another $1. Well, that means our tax rate is going to end up going up $1.64 just with what we know about. So that's about a 10 or 15%, 10 or 12% increase in our tax rate as it stands now. My concern is that right here, Brookfield, which is the current owner of the JCPenney location, has reversed itself because they've taken big hits in retail and they're no longer public. They took themselves out of being public, which means there's no more oversight with anybody. They get to be able to do things much more without as much oversight by any kind of regulatory body, because now they're private, they're not public. That said, they can start to sell off things much more quickly. And they own our JCPenney location. In a mistake, they sent out a notice saying they were closing our store. Now, they said that was a mistake, but everything about it was correct. Meaning they were talking about canceling the license to operate in town. So they had it in the can. I think somebody just pressed the button too soon. My point is, we're going to have further erosion of property values at the mall. I think we were told that the mall currently is creating about 800 to 900,000 of income for the town. If that property value drops, and for instance, were to become a distribution center for Amazon, the rents go from 15 to 18 bucks per on the valuations down to about $6 or $8. So in other words, the value of 800 to 900 grand that we're currently getting as income, as tax, is going to go down about 50% from that property. Now, some people can say, Jeff, we got so much from the power plant, if we lose a little more at the mall, no big deal. Well, that's still a good chunk of our income for the town. To lose anywhere here is a problem, and we've got to keep that in mind. So we've just got to pay attention to this, and that's the reason that I'm harping on this. So according to the master plan that was put forth by the planning board, they brought up some really great points. They said they did a bunch of questionnaires for town residents, and the town's greatest asset, question number one, what is the town's greatest asset for you as a resident? Mentioned, strong tax base providing low property taxes. That is the bottom line. That's what a lot of people really liked, that we've got one of the lowest tax rates in the state. Question two, most pressing issues. They wanted to maintain the rural feel of the town, maintain the viability of retail, well, and then protect the environment. Okay, great. So it's all about the community and making sure that the vibrancy of retail potentially stays. And then the most appealing areas are areas in town. I left out an A there, I should have corrected that. Is the active farmland and the low density residential. And you say, okay, so what, Jeff? Well, in the master plan, they talk about what is going to happen when the tax rates go up. A lot of town residents will not be able to afford the new higher tax rates, because the new higher tax rates are not stopping at where I mentioned them at the 15 cent, the dollar, whatever that was back there. I can go back to it real quickly. At $1.64, it's going to go up more as more values drop. But the point is, in the master plan, it mentions the higher tax rates lead to residential building. So there's going to be more residential building, and this is what the master plan says. that our housing units are going to potentially existing jump up from 354 to just about double that. They have another scenario where it's slightly less, but the bottom line is it's going to add a lot more residential usage in the residential part of town. Our population is going to double, just about double. And that is potentially going to change the way the schools are dealt with. So the bottom line is, in the master plan, it talks about how higher tax rates can drive more residential development. And so this is how they kind of calculated. I put it in here. It's way more detailed than we probably have time or need to, but I'm going to leave it with, as they say back in the day, when I started this presentation here tonight, things have changed. So I'm going to use a meme that is out there, but I've kind of modified it, and I'll read it because it's small print, but I had a lot of words to squeeze into this. This is Bruce Ismay, the guy from the Titanic. He was one of the designers of the Titanic. And he in this meme, he's saying, Newington shall ignore falling energy property values, crashing retail sales and property values, success in Portsmouth with mixed use, and quote unquote, or I should say, I'll add here, without overburdening the schools, stay the course, Captain. That's what Ismay told Captain Smith about driving into the icebergs. Captain Smith says, but what about Newington's low tax rate, rural community feel, and great residential area? And here is Newington, heading into the icebergs. That's my concern. That's what I voiced at the planning board meeting. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to take them. I can go back to slides if you like, or I can stop sharing and we'll move on into other topics. But Mike thought it might make sense for me to say this.
Jeff, I'm wondering, what kind of reaction did you get from the planning board when you made your very fine presentation?
The head of the planning board was not too happy with me and made an interesting comment, which fortunately was recorded. So I'll leave it at that for now. Okay.
So if this is in relation to something that's going to be on the town meeting agenda, right, for people to vote on these zoning amendments, would there be a way for you to present this to more of our community?
I would be happy to. How would you suggest I do that? And I would be happy to do that.
It's not actually at town meeting. It's at the voting day, the Tuesday prior.
Yeah, I think is the vote this coming Tuesday, or is it the following?
A week from Tuesday.
Week from Tuesday, the 9th.
The one reason I encourage Jeff, besides the quality of the presentation, was that at least our meeting is going to get recorded, and if someone chooses to look at it, they'll be able to see the presentation. Whereas, due to technical problems, his slides weren't able to be shown up on the screen at the planning board meeting. So
I've interestingly enough, I've seen several comments on the Newington Facebook page, and they're kind of calling out that basically anybody that's worried about these property values are overblowing it, and it's not a big deal and it should be ignored. It's kind of the message. And I'm surprised that some of our other zoning board, economic development committee members are not here, because they have been some of the people making those comments. So, it is what it is. So
We're in a very,
We're never gonna get through this unless we all pull together. I'll tell you that. Go ahead, Ted, sorry.
no, we're in a very precarious position right now with, we still are negotiating with the power plants and have nothing finalized yet, but it's not a bright future. And the malls, we know the mall is, and it's, the selectman's office with Martha, we're monitoring and doing what we can and reaching out, but I definitely appreciate the workshops you guys are putting on and the information you're sharing and putting out there. It's sad that the majority of people don't listen or don't want to talk about it or have their heads in the sand this time. And I don't know when we, you put it out there, we've put it out there for a year and a half, how bad the situation is or how it's going. I don't get any calls on it. Well, it'll come around. We know it's not going to come around, but it's perseverance like you people are putting together and making presentations is keeping this alive, and we can look optimistically at.
But I don't think people know how bad it is. They don't, what you did, Jeff, was you put some very nice, simple numbers on it. What we are definitely looking at in terms of reduced property valuations and revenue, and what we may be looking at next year. And I think that is a fair and balanced, it's fair to present that, I think, to residents before they vote on these amendments coming up, because they should have, like two sides to the story and see the numbers behind it.
I'm with you. People just go emotional and emotionally look at it.
It's very
It is
emotionally
what it
driven.
is.
But if they know that emotionally, what they're, I don't know, it's complicated, but at the very least to know that even if you do this, you're making it more likely that rates could go up even more in the future.
That's what I'm saying.
So I don't know if this is possible or a good idea or not, but what if the Economic Development Committee gave their opinion on these amendments in a flyer or something on the Newington Facebook page or something before the town meeting or before the voting day, and said it is our opinion that these, I don't know.
Jill, if I may just add to that about 3 weeks ago now, I sent a flyer out that spoke about the power generation plants, the mall, and donor towns. I sent that out to the entire town.
Yeah.
I did not receive, Jill, you're right, I did not receive one phone call. And I tried to be as detailed and specific as possible. I don't know what people are thinking, but they did not respond.
Well, but that was in the context of you running for, re-election for your position. Whereas I think if the committee said, hey, here's 3 upcoming amendments, as the Economic Development Committee, here's our opinion on those before you go into the voting booth.
I think that would be a good idea. The safety lane, just sent a little flyer out. Something similar to that coming from the EDC, I think would be outstanding.
You got the book, can't think of the book we put out for the town meeting. You have a big page in there similar to what you just said now, right, Jeff? The town report?
I think that's the little kind of write-up I did you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think I got much into this per se.
Okay.
It was more, this is what we've done.
Right,
That was
okay.
more of a
Yeah, I know there was,
The thing that occurs to me, if we could just get the focus more on working towards how we solve this rather than how we ignore it or say it won't happen. I know all the, we're not even talking about the donor town issue, and that obviously pales by comparison. with the numbers that Jeff is putting forward. And I know Ted and Ken and Mike are working on that with Martha and working with other towns, but it's just unfortunate that it's hard to reach the I guess the political will to say, hey, we got to look at this. It doesn't mean you have to immediately change the zoning. Our concern about this, I wrote a letter about it because I didn't feel comfortable going to a meeting where, you know, given the COVID situation, but our concern about this is driven not by a desire to second guess the planning board or it's to how do we work with them? I mean, I know they work closely with other boards, so why they would post something like this and not, you know, not seek any input at all about it. And it's not the end of the world. It's probably not the hill to die on because the underlying regs are what they are, but it manifests this attitude. And the Board of Selectmen and this committee have spent a lot of time over the last 3 years trying to address that. And this undermines that. I don't think it's intended to undermine it. I believe, as it's been explained to me by the town planner, that it's really aimed at shoring up the measures they took regarding designating other areas for affordable housing. But two wrongs don't make a right, you know? I just don't see how this is something that's headed in the right direction. And hopefully, whether we can affect this year's town meeting, I think we're well advised to just get the input and go and get the information out to people about what the input tells us. You know,
Here's what I'll do.
up to them.
Here's what I'm going to do. I'll go ahead and maybe Jill, are you part of that Newington Facebook group?
I'm on their page, yeah.
Yeah. So how about you, if you don't mind, and I don't want it just to be me posting something. I'd like to respond to something. And sure, this is contrived. I'll acknowledge that. And it's recorded so everybody can see it, but I'm going to ask you to go ahead and ask Jeff, thanks for that presentation tonight at the EDC. Would you mind offering to do that again? And then I'll respond and I'll say yes. And what I'll do is I'll put on the thing a Zoom invite for a particular time. And I'll do it on the Facebook thing. And if people want to come, great. And if they don't want to come, fine. But at least they can hear it and we can go through it. And I'll correct my spelling error because my wife's going to kill me for that. So.
No, I mean, this is a lot of effort, Jeff, and
But it's worth it if we can, you know, just get people to understand the light at the end of the tunnel isn't the end of the tunnel. It's that train coming at us, and it's coming. So anyway, with that said,
nobody wants the train to come. I mean, the attitude is if we talk about it, we're going to make it come, and it's the opposite. You know,
yes.
If we talk about it and work on it, we can slow it down and stop it and reverse it.
That's what we want.
And that's what, I mean, if you go back, it was a very courageous thing John Rowe and the other leaders of this town did in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
When they stood up and said, we're going to take that whole area on that side of town and we're going to make it different. And we're gonna do that. You know, there were people, there were farms and families there. And there was a decision made to do that because that was in the best interest of the town, given the same attributes we're talking about today, the highway, the river, the potential for commercial activity. So, we've just got to be true to that. And whether, there's no reason to be threatened by it. I guess is the bottom line. If I'm saying these things more for people that tune, those 5 people that are going to tune in and watch our little meeting, I guess.
Well, great. Okay, so we'll go ahead and go back to our agenda then and continue moving along that, I guess. And I think I've stopped. I'm not sharing my screen anymore, am I?
No.
Okay, good. Okay. Let's see here. Picked up the wrong one. There we go. So I think we're going to hear now from Bob Raymond on the Taylor Caswell, Commissioner of New Hampshire Department of Business and Economic Affairs.
You will hear from me that I didn't know when the meeting was, and I've asked Martha to send me the next one. It's a Monday. I thought it was on a Tuesday, so I apologize. I didn't attend. It was an accident, but I'll do better on the next one.
Sure.
Well,
And I volunteered when if you do have a conflict.
Okay.
If I don't, I'll back you up. Okay.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
okay. Next on the agenda, report on Seacoast Economic Development Roundtable by Karen Anderson.
Okay, I fortunately did not forget, so I did attend 2. The first one on February 16th, I sent out notes to everybody about that one. And the gist of that meeting was talking a lot about the governor's budget and the proposal to reduce the funding for the Small Business Development Corporation. 50,000 in 22 and completely eliminating it in 23. Pretty much everyone on the call, there were 20 participants, were all very opposed to that because the towns don't have the expertise to advise people wanting to start businesses, particularly small businesses, on the financial aspects of it. And then there was a woman from the Banking Commission on that said that they won't meet with a proposed business unless they've had financial advice through either their town or another bank or the Small Business Development Corporation on their funding. They talked about the $5.5 million in grants that they're able to distribute as a result. And their funding currently is $880,000 biennial. So $440,000 a year, which is their required amount for matching funds from the federal government. So they were pretty much, that was a lot of the meeting, and that they were very concerned with that. And that continued on to the meeting this week, where they wanted each of the economic development committees to either vote or a consensus on whether or not they wanted to sign on to one joint letter of support from the Seacoast Economic Development Group to support the reinstatement of that budget line item in, as well as the support for the Office of Strategic Initiatives, which used to be called OSP. That OSI is going away as well and being split up with half of this. They're not losing staff or funding. What they're doing is taking half of it and adding it on to the planning side and half on to economic development side. So they weren't as concerned with that, but they wanted everyone to kind of know about that. Great Bay Community College was represented and talked about the apprenticeship program that they have and that they continue to have plenty of funds. and not a lot of interest from businesses that want to send people there for training. The businesses complain that they don't have the skilled labor. Great Bay can provide the skills that they need, and they just need to get more on those partnerships together. Let's see. This week, they talked more about the COVID-19 and vaccination sites, and the state is moving forward with some mass vaccination sites that will be up within a couple of weeks, and they will remain appointment-based, but there will be no requirements as far as age or anything. It'll be opened up to the general public. And they're increasing the amount allocated to like 22,000 shots a week. It's a substantial increase. And let's see what else. There's a small change to that PPP grant, in that now local businesses, and it was actually touched on in Darren's presentation that he was sending out to his people, that if an employee has had both of their shots and travels outside of New England or comes in contact, they no longer have to quarantine for 2 weeks. They are allowed to go back to work right away if they've had their 2 shots. So they anticipate that will help a lot of the businesses that are struggling to maintain their staffing if somebody goes away. And they also have opened up the grant opportunities for the businesses for non-citizen owned businesses as long as they're lawful residents. Whereas before, a citizen of another country that's lawfully in the country, in US operating a business, wasn't allowed to apply for the grants. So they've changed that now. The part that they haven't changed yet is still, and Teresa Walker is working on this as well, is that the grants still only take effect after February 5th, if your business was operating after February 15th of 2020. So businesses that started up at the beginning of the year, like in January, that are failing or struggling, do not qualify. Outdoor dining, there's legislation that there's really going to be starting to push because the Liquor Commission was opposed to extending House Bill 176 for the outdoor dining. So there's new, Senator Kavanaugh is in support of it, and they're going to try to tack on the extension to allow outside dining through the remainder of the year onto another bill, and they haven't determined which one that's going to be yet. But they're trying to work around the Liquor Commission, who's come out opposed to House Bill 176. And that's pretty much the gist of the 2 meetings. So the question is whether or not Newington wants to sign on to the letter from the Greater Seacoast Economic Development Region in support of the Small Business Development Corp.
Any questions from anybody on that? That's a great update. Thanks a lot. Tim.
Thanks.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, are you saying they're asking us if we want to join in now and pay for that?
No, there's no cost. They're doing a letter from the Seacoast Region Economic Development people to support the governor, to oppose the governor's budget and ask for the funding to be put back in for the SBDC. But what they want to do is list it by towns. And so they want each town, each economic development committee to say, yes, we want to sign on. They think it will be more impact instead of just saying from the Seacoast Region Economic Development Group to say from the town of Exeter, from Newington, from Portsmouth, like that.
Oh, I would think that would make sense for us to do. I don't see why we wouldn't do that. Is there any objection, anybody on the board or on the committee?
Great.
Yeah, my thought, I wouldn't be interested in anything that was negative as to the governor's authority to reallocate the Office of Strategic Initiatives that you mentioned. Because
Right.
I think actually there's a good potential that that will make it more effective by being closer to the actual departments that they're trying to influence. But as far as the Small Business Development Corporation, I think we joined this, we got into the group here with an idea of trying to participate and get referrals and work with people in the group. And one way to, show that Newington's involved and is ready to stand up would be to take a position on something like this. How it'll all work out, it'll work out, through the budgetary process, through the legislature and the governor. But that entity has a known reputation of being helpful and valuable to small businesses. And God knows that Newington doesn't have the resources to provide those services to anybody. So I'd support this. We'll have to have a roll call vote to do it.
So
Just being parliamentarian here.
Martha, step up and do the roll call.
Yes, sir. Do you need a motion and a second?
Second,
Or how?
Can I make a motion or am I not because I'm the chair?
You can make it.
I'll make a motion that we proceed with signing the document we're talking about.
And we
And I
have a
think Bob
second.
seconded.
Was that Bob?
second, yes,
Seconded? Okay, here we go. Ted Connors,
Yes,
Bob Raymond,
yes,
Mike Donahue,
Yes.
Jill Boynton,
Yes.
Jeff Hyatt.
Yes,
All in favor?
rock and roll.
that was a tough one, Jeff. That was good job.
It was a squeaker.
You're having a big night, Jeff.
I know, I'm steamrolling everything right now. So next on the agenda here is the meeting with the planning board. We had originally slated with Dennis and John Krebs to come into the next one, which was in March. They've informed me and Mike as of earlier today, we're off of that agenda. And so they've bumped us into April, which we can live with. It is what it is, but I think it's going to be April 12th. Is that right, Mike? Is that what he said?
Yeah, that's what I saw in the email from Krebs.
Yep.
He kind of had it a little confused, but he straightened it out for us.
Yes. So we'll be doing some sort of, hopefully, it will be in compliance with executive order number 12 or whatever, and we'll be able to do it virtually, but I'm not sure how that works for the planning board. I don't know that they do it that way. Hopefully they will, but we'll be on their agenda for April. So with that said, we'll move on to the next, which is e-news communications and topics with Mike Donahue.
We need them. It's
Well,
I
thank
know
you,
it's
Captain
a
Obvious.
shockingly new message. I have committed to coming up with something on wind, offshore wind, and the potential for it, and not immediately, but down the road, to be very beneficial if we can get on the other side of the carbon issue, that with renewable energy, that Newington actually is well positioned to take advantage of the new industry that's going to come out of that. That's not going to answer the problem we talked about earlier today, but if we don't get vocal in it and start planning now, we'll be left by the wayside. So that's a potential article, but it's not going to be ready for the next edition. Karen has, as she mentioned, has put together a nice article on custom pools and we'll be able to put that in. I would hope we could perhaps have Karen work with Jill and come up with a future article that related to home businesses that are active in Newington. And we were talking about Night Hill Surveying. You know, it's a pretty busy street over there. Road.
Have to put a street light up, Jill.
Yeah, I don't know, you know, you're gonna hit some of those land values, I think, for commercial properties. The selectmen should be looking at that.
Yeah,
You know, the beauty is when you go down the street, you don't know they're there, you know, but they're doing very good things for people. And we should be talking about that as well. In the other article, you'll see there's a theme to these articles. It's how to get other people involved. I think Karen could work with you, Bob, and also the new medical office building that's being built, and have an article on, or you know, the dentist, some of the other people that are in town, have an article about, you know, medical practices in Newington, because
Now,
we are
been,
very much interested in that.
has that been rented out to anybody, or is it just, they're just taking a chance?
I don't know.
Mhm.
Karen?
It was purchased through Portsmouth. It is a medical practice that purchased it on the transfer. I don't remember it off the top of my head.
So they've got somebody lined up to go in there and,
Yeah,
That's,
yeah. Mark Phillips has already sold it to a medical practice.
that's good that it's not on spec.
Right.
Right.
So that's what I throw out there. And, you know, the deadline's like tomorrow. We might be able to get a really short article that did say something about this zoning thing, but it'd have to be pretty carefully done. I mean, I don't think we want to, you know, go off in any way that's anything less than constructive, I guess. You know, but we might be able to have a link in that back to your presentation, if we could get it to be standalone or something on the town website.
Oh, man.
You know? Well, I mean,
Gasoline on that fire.
no, seriously, I mean, but for a technical problem, it would have been recorded at that planning board meeting. I mean, there's no question about that. And,
He wasn't too happy.
that when we're, you know,
So,
it's really the content of the information. It's, you know, I think Jill said it well. I mean, that's what we've got to focus on, and the people will make their judgment. You know, it doesn't have to go any particular way, but it's important that people be fully informed. The letter I wrote about it was the way the process unfolded and the way the meetings were. You know, people had no idea what it was about and what they were doing. So that was the concern I expressed in that letter. And,
well, thank you for that update, Mike. I think you've covered what was going to originally be new business, or, you know, possibly going to, so I think you've covered that now, unless you have some new business, Mike. Anyone else have any new business to bring up?
no, I'm good. We gotta nod off here.
Okay, so then, as it's mentioned here, we've got March 3rd, as it stands right now, informational meeting with Waterstone Group. May or may not be Josh. It may be, hopefully I'm going to talk to Karen tomorrow and maybe rope her into this.
Yeah, but
And
if you do that though, make sure she goes back and learns all that
I will.
school information and everything on the Veridian, because if she
Yep.
comes in and says, oh, I wasn't involved with that, we really aren't gonna get the information we needed.
Understood. Okay, I'll make sure of that. And then,
And thanks for all your work in lining these up. I mean, somebody needs to say that. You're the one that's lined all three of these speakers up. And, you know, you're unfolding a mini forum over time. And I think if we get this information and then in the whole, then the committee can talk, you know, in the future about whether to put all this together in a single presentation, you know, for the public.
sure.
But we'll keep going the way it
Good
is.
times, good times. We'll sell popcorn and Cokes. Oh, man, it's gonna be a big seller. Isn't there a drive-in movie theater we could put that up at in town, or is that gone now?
Yeah.
Darn it.
It's, you hang a sheet.
There we go. Okay, and then the 26th with the, I think that was referring to, is our next meeting the 25th? Yes, that's, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so there we got that. And then with that,
April 12th.
and then April 12th,
yeah.
planning board, with or without Zooming, I guess, I don't know.
Yeah.
And we'll call for an adjournment then. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, great. So thank you, everybody, and we'll sign off now. And Jill, if you'll do that thing with the Facebook thing, I'll start.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll
Can
take
I just-
arrows for that.
Yeah, okay. Great,
All right, here
will
we
do.
go. Thanks, everybody.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.